mann som vecklar bruk och snusbullar.
Hello world, hello YouTubes, this is Shauna with Disrupt Apps again, and I'm back from the gym and a nice lunch, and we're going to get back into this series. And in part 4, we learned how to make a really cool, simple layout framework. And in this tutorial, part 5, we are going to come from this rudimentary block layout, and we're actually going to style the application, the randomized web content application, to look like this. And we aren't going to go through here and actually render out all the paragraphs and titles, but we'll basically get everything looking like this front page here, and we'll put in like a title and some random content to make it look like it's going to be. All right. So with that, let's get to our code. All right. So we were here. We've got our divs, and let's go ahead and change what we're going to be talking about into styling the app. We're actually going to be styling it now. Alrighty. So remember we talked about the parent and child relationship, and coming back here really quick, we've got our parents, right? Like 9, 10, and 11, they're in this parent. That's from right to left. And then down here we have our 25, 50, and 25. That's in another parent. And remember that I said parents are going to be like containers. And so containers are what you're going to be putting your children in. And I use the parent-child relationship so you would understand when you hear that term, you know what that means. And so we're going to change the parent class, and we're going to use kind of a standard nomenclature, and we're going to basically turn a parent class into what they call a container. And you'll see that in many frameworks out there. And so let's go ahead and start that. So all we have to do with that container is we'll just take the parent, and we're going to do CONT, which is short for container. So let's go ahead and copy that, Control C, come back to our page, and let's do the quick shortcut. So just highlight the parent and Control V to paste and Control S. And let me go ahead and delete all the rest of this here, because we won't need that code. So we're going to tighten up the code, make it nice and formatted, make it nice and pretty. And so we have our container, which is the parent, remember, and then we're going to have our children inside. And in this case, we kept the 33% children. So let's come here and we'll hit the refresh, and there we go, everything's working. We have our 33, 33, 33, 33, 33, 33, and that's working rather well. All right. So, okay, so let's start getting this blue basic children's blocks to this nice looking modern sleek UI. UI means user interface. Okay. And let's go over this page real quick. It's a really, really simple basic web page. We don't have a top, we don't have a header or a hero banner or a big picture. We just have these nav menu items, and you'll see portfolio, careers, news, locations, yada, yada, yada. And then we have this border here. You know, we've got this nice little box shadow, which we used to do our layout border, and I'll show you how to apply that. And you'll notice we have this centered, I like to think of as a raised 3D portion, which is really, really nice. I know these types of, this type of style is very popular. And when I first started coding, these weren't so popular. We were still in the hero banners and the big logos, the big social media logos at the top. And you know, web fashion is like the fast fashion now. They change it on purpose just to keep developers and busy and to make you having to go around and figure out what the website looks like. And I hate that thing. And it's called user engagement, and it's a terrible practice that needs to end. Because in my opinion, the internet should be you get your information and you get out. But I digress. Anyways, it's really nice center portion here where the content is, and then inside that raised div, this raised section, we have our content, and we're going to take this block. We're going to take this we're going to take all these blocks and then turn it into something pretty. Okay, so within the body here, I want to go ahead and design what like a nav portion and then the body content portion, and we'll go ahead and start structuring these out with divs. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and just get rid of all the children, get rid of that, and we're going to have just one content, right? We're just going to have one large content div that will contain both the nav section and then the content section here. So getting back to the code, let's create a div, and here we'll type in div, hit tab, and we're going to make this our navigation div, right? And I want to create a class, and I'm going to name it nav menu wrapper. And you're going to hear, sometimes you'll hear a container and a wrapper, and container contains things and a wrapper wraps things. So you can think of like this, like a box has a nice thing, so you can think of like a box that you get from the store with a nice product in it. The box has the outside, it's just a cardboard box, and then inside you've got your contents, your widget or whatever you bought, and it's going to be wrapped up in plastic. So I like to use a container and wrapper type of nomenclature. So this div is going to contain all the nav items that we see here. All right. And then we'll come down here and we'll go ahead and just copy that. Okay, we'll paste that. And where all the content will go, like all the titles and paragraphs and words, I'm going to name it root wrapper. And when we get into the JavaScript part, you'll understand why I use root. So let's come to our styles, and we can go ahead and start getting rid of some of this content. Okay, and get rid of these classes. Now I want to keep the container class, right? Because we're going to use a container to hold our nav menu and our content. So we're going to keep that. Now for the child, I want to go ahead and keep that, but we don't need to use a min and max height right now, not for right now. So we'll go ahead and delete that. Okay, so I want to keep the child, and I want to go ahead and I want to add the child to each of our divs that are inside of the parent. Okay, and hit save. And we're not going to need any of the divs right now, so I'll go ahead and comment those out. And we're not going to need any of these anymore. We'll go ahead and delete those. And then for right now, let's go ahead and keep these just in case. I want to show. And I want to get rid of the background color on the child. And Control S here. Control S to save what we did on the HTML, refresh the page, and we have a blank document. Now I want to go over doing what they call a font family. And let's go ahead and create a P tag, and we'll just type in some test content. We'll hit Control S, and we'll come over here to our web page, refresh the page, and we still have our red guiding lines. That's fine, but you'll see that we've got, I think that's Times New Roman or something. I forgot the default, but I want to change that to something else. And to do that, and the way to change your font is you come in with a thing called Font Family. Down here, Font Family. Go ahead and click that, and you're going to see all these different fonts that you can apply. And I am going to do something that I like to do. I'm going to copy and paste some code that I already have, and you hit Control V to paste, Control C to save, and I'm going to use Tahoma and Trebuchet MS as the backup if this doesn't render, and then sans serif for the flags on the letters. So remember, this was the default font of the web page. Now hit refresh. Now you can see that the font has changed to Tahoma. Cool. Okay. And so for this particular layout, I'm going to not use the child per se. I'm not going to use the child name, but what I'm going to do is get rid of the child. I put that there so you would understand what I'm going to be doing. So I'm going, the container is the parent, and the nav menu is going to be the child. So I want to come in here, and I want to make a nav menu, which will be the child, right? So I'll go ahead and make the nav menu wrapper class, and then curly braces, make some space, and I want to go ahead and make it inline block, and I'm going to have it float left. I'll paste those up there, and I want to explicitly say, hey, I want you to be a width of 100%, because I want, the container is 100%, and I want to ensure that the nav menu wrapper is going to be 100% inside the container. So let's go ahead and hit Control S to save that. We'll come to our page and see what happens. Okay, we're still good. All right. Let me go ahead and change that to nav. We'll just say one nav item for right now, just to go along. Come back here, and this will be like the first nav item, and we'll get that all lined up here shortly. And then for the root wrapper, I want to go ahead and start working on that a little bit. So let's copy that class name, and then we'll come down here below the nav menu. And it's a good practice that when you do your CSS and you start, doing your containers and parents and wrappers and things like that, you kind of want to go in a logical order. Like the thing that people start off with the most is like the body, because that's the root. That's the root thing you're going to be putting all your stylings in. And then with the framework, if you take the framework approach, well, the next logical thing would be to do your containers. And then the next logical thing after that would be to put your children. And a lot of CSS frameworks, and the good practice that you should do is to section your code like this. Do body, and then like layout stuff, and then further on down here you do like widths, and then further down here you do borders, and then more and more down here you do text and things like that. And that's a good practice to get into. But getting back, let's go ahead and copy the root wrapper, and we'll paste that there. Curly braces. And then I want to also make it inline block. Control paste, and then we want to float it to the left. But in this instance, I want my we want to have this centered, so we want to have a gap. And the way that I like to do my frameworks is I like to explicitly say we want the root wrapper to be a min width of, let's say, 95%, and I always explicitly say max width of 95%. So in this way, it's always going to be 95% no matter what. Okay, we'll hit Control S on that. And the root wrapper, let's go ahead and just copy that and put root. We'll just put root content. Oops, root content. Control S to save, Control S to save, and let's see what happens. Okay, well, okay, so we've got our test parent, which you remember that's going to be around all of the container div, okay? And then you have your nav item wrapper and then your root content wrapper. And so maybe just for fun, I'll go ahead and take the test class so you can see how these are laying out. So I copied the test class and I pasted it here. We'll come back to our page and we hit the refresh button. So now you can see that our nav item is 100% like we wanted to. And now you can see that the root content is only 95% because you can see here on the right hand side you've got the red, and that denotes the div of the container. Well, this is only taking up 95% because that's what we told it to do. That's what we told it what we wanted to happen. Remember? We come here, and that's why I wanted to apply that. That's why I kept these test colors in here so you could see what's happening. Right? So, well, now we have a problem. All of our stuff is, all of our content is centered within the divs, right? Well, how do we do that? We haven't gone over that yet. And the way that you do this, the easy way to do this is to use something called text align. And text align will allow you to take your text and your divs, and that's something that's really great about the framework that I developed, is it makes it so much easier, as you can just take the center, as you can come in here and you can select center, left, or right. So let's go ahead and hit the center for our nav menu wrapper. And what this is going to do, it's going to say, hey, everything in our nav menu div, we want it to be centered. So hit Control S there, Control S there to make changes. And if everything worked out properly, we should see a change. There we go. So our nav item, right? Our nav item p tag, p element, is now in the center. Easy peasy. Okay. So coming to our root wrapper, well, we know that this is 95%, right? So we don't want the content to be centered. Let me go ahead and show you what we're trying to achieve. Let's go ahead and hit S, right? Control save. We'll come here and hit the refresh. Well, now our content's in the center, but that's not what we want. We want our content to be left justified. But we'll go over that here in a little bit. So what we need to achieve is we need this div. We need this div here, right? We need the root content div itself. We need it. We need this to be centered. Well, what we can do is we can come up to our container class, and you could paste, Control paste your text align here. Let's go ahead and get rid of the align for the root wrapper. We'll hit save. So we're going to say the content container. Everything within the content container is going to be everything in the content container, meaning the nav menu wrapper and the root wrapper will be centered. Now let's go ahead and hit Control S to see what happens. We'll come here and we'll hit refresh, and well, nothing happened. Well, why is that? Well, the thing is, you just can't come in here and do this. This doesn't work like that. So in order to make it work the way you want it to work, is you need to use a thing called margin left and margin right. Let's go ahead and look into these things. So we need to explicitly say, hey, we want to center this thing. And the easiest way to center this with this technique is all you have to do is come in here and type auto, A-U-T-O. And you want to auto both the left and the right side. And the rendering engine, when it sees all this, it's going to say, hey, do all the calculations for us and make it centered. So you don't have to go in here and like say, well, what's 100 minus 95? That's 5. Divided by 2 on each side, that's 2.5. The auto go ahead and takes care of it for us. Okay, so we've got the autos. So one thing we need to get rid of is we need to get rid of the float. Because if we don't take out this float, it's going to say, hey, float to the left. Even though we're telling it to make an auto, we need to go ahead and get rid of the float. So this thing will center. All right, so we remove that. Let's come back to our page and hit refresh. On the left hand side you've got the margin left, on the right hand side you've got your margin. And now the root content is nice and neatly put inside the middle. So that's all good, right? And doing it this method is really, really, really cool, really simple, really easy. Now for training purposes, let's break something, right? So what happens if we change this inline block and we go display block? We change it into a block level element. Well, let's see what happens. Well, we broke it. So when you work with the kind of framework that I've developed, you have to keep with the design pattern, right? And that's another word I haven't used yet, is design pattern, and you'll hear that used often. Okay, so let's go ahead and Control Z to get rid of all that and get it back working again. Okay, Control S to save, come here to refresh. So we've got our root content is centered. Well, now one thing we gotta talk about now is a concept called inheritance. And so remember, we came up here to the container and we said, hey, container class, everything, all your content in here is going to be centered. And that means your nav menu wrapper and your nav items and then your root wrapper and then the root content is all going to be centered. But the thing is, we don't want our root content, we want it to be to the left. So we need to come into our code and we need to explicitly tell the root wrapper, hey, we want all your children, remember that the root wrapper is now the parent, it's going to say, hey, I want you to align to the left. And to do that, we'll come to the root wrapper class, right? And then this time we're going to say text align, and we can choose left. Okay, Control C to save, and if everything worked properly, we'll come in here and hit refresh. And now our root content is all the way to the left-hand side. And that's cool. That's the way we want it. And it's starting to look kind of like what we want. And remember, we still have a margin on the left and the right. So the root wrapper is still centered, but the content inside is now left. It's left justified or aligned to the left. Well, we're making some progress. We've got the nav item in the center and we've got our root content on the left. So now let's go ahead and start working on our nav items up here. And I want to introduce you to a new element, and it's called the A, or anchor tag. And I'm going to reference the W3 schools. They have a really good example, really easy to follow. But what an anchor tag does is it basically, when you click a link, you've been clicking links all your lives, and an anchor tag is a link. And what that does is it routes you, it routes the page to go to another website or web page. Let's come here to try yourself. You can see here on the left-hand side, we've got this anchor tag, and it says href, which is a hypertext reference. And when you click this link, it's going to say, hey, go to this HTTPS page, w3schools.com, and then you're going to have the text in here. Now, a lot of times in the modern internet, you're not going to see the blue and the underline. But when you do not style an anchor tag, this is going to be the default style that you will see. And sometimes you'll see it, but a lot of times they'll cover up the default styling. So let's go ahead and click on this link. And they have a nice little window that opens it up inside. And the other thing that we need to say is that the anchor tags, they are an inline element. So they're going to behave like an inline element we've been studying so far. So let's come into our web page and let's go ahead and try it out. So let's come in here, let's get rid of the nav item, and let's do something fun. Let's do A for anchor tag and hit tab, and VS Code will automatically pull up an href, and you'll have an, it'll be empty, right? You need to put something in here. So let's say go to Google, hit save, but if we go here, let's come to our page, and it says go to Google. And as you noticed, you can see here that we've got this color, go to Google, it's underlined because that's the default behavior. And you'll also notice that our div, the margins collapse because once again, this is an inline element and it doesn't have margins on the top and the bottom, but we'll fix that in a minute. But getting back to the functionality, well, hey, what if we want to go to Google? Well, we have to tell it. It ain't gonna know where to go unless we tell it. So we need to come in here and type https:// and www.google.com. And yeah, that's a lot to type out to say, hey, go to Google, but you really need to have this format. It's really best practice to do the whole link and not just come in here and do www.google.com or google.com. So let's go ahead and see if this works, just for funsies. We saved it, we'll hit refresh, we'll click, and see it doesn't work because it's what's happening. What you'll find out is it's going to say it's trying to look for it inside our domain, and it's not inside our domain, so it's not going to work. So what happens if you just type in www.google.com, hit Control-S to save, and then come back, refresh? It still won't work because it's still trying to find the files locally. So that's why you have to properly format it and say, hey, and it says, hey, go to this page out here by using this protocol. This means go outside of your folder, outside of your domain, right? So let's come back here, we hit refresh. What happens if we click? Well, hey, now we finally get to go to Google because we have a properly structured, we have a properly formatted href. But for right now, I want to go ahead and leave that here so we can see the default styling. All right, so let me get it back down to 100%, which makes it really tiny, right? So we have our hyperlink, okay? So the next thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and start building out all of these names. And I won't make you sit here and wait through all of this, but I'll go ahead and start working on this and changing this to all the names. And I'm going to go ahead and delete that for now. Okay, so we've got that done. And I'm going to do something a little interesting. I'm going to replace all of the spaces, all of the white spaces, with an underscore. And for this tutorial and for this random content website generator, you'll understand why I'm doing this. But you wouldn't normally do this on your a real website or web application. So we'll save that. We'll come back here and to our web page, And there we go. We can see that everything is starting to take shape. We have all of our links here in the nav. So we have all the default styling of the blue, purple color, and then the underline, okay? And we don't want that. You know, we want this to be nice and pretty and clean. And now we're going to go ahead and start actually making this look like the nav items, right? So we need to do that with a class. So what we'll do is we'll come in here and we need to assign a class to all of these. So the easy way to do this with our little shortcut trick is to highlight the space, the A, and the greater than, and hold Control and D. And we're going to go ahead and hit D to select all of them, and use the right arrow key to make our cursors bump up against the href. Let's go ahead and hit type in class equals quotation space. So now we've made our class the easy way, and then we can hit the left arrow key and come in here. So now we can name the class nav menu items. So now we're going to apply a class to all of the anchor tags. So let's copy that. So we'll come into our CSS and we'll come here, and I'd like to go ahead and put my related stylings underneath the parent, right? So these are the child and this is the parent, and just come here underneath. And you don't have to do this, but this is just a good way to keep your code organized. And then we'll paste the nav menu items class, curly braces. And so the first thing we want to get rid of is we want to get rid of this. We want to get rid of the underline. And the way that you can do that is with a styling called text decoration. And you can see up here it pulled up. And what this is going to say is, hey, whatever text in here, do this or don't do this. And you can do all these different things like solid, underline, overline, line through, double, dotted, dash, and things like that. Well, in this case, if you want to get rid of that underline, you select none. We'll go ahead and hit Control S to save. And let's see what happens. Refresh. So we've gotten rid of the underline. And remember, these are inline elements, so they're going to not have any margin on the top and the bottom, but we'll fix that here shortly. Okay, so we've gotten rid of the underline. Okay, so now I want to change the font size. And I work with the Rem font sizing, and you can use pixels or you can use EM. It's up to you. But as I said in my other video, whatever method you use, whether it's Rem, EM, or pixels, just stick with it through your entire website or web application. And so I'm going to go with font size 1.4 rem. Control S to save, come here, refresh, and now our font size is bigger. Well, let me go ahead and zoom back out to 100, right? To have like a normal default page, because we had it blasting in our face, right? So let's get back to 100. So now I think that looks a little thin. So I want to fatten up those letters. So from our other video, we'll do font weight. And in this case, I'm going to do 700. Control S to save, come here, refresh. Now we have a little bit thicker font. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. We're starting to make a little progress, but we still have a discoloration, right? You can see here that the links are purple and blue. I want to go ahead and change that color to blue. So let's change the color to blue, and all you have to do is say color blue. Hit S, refresh. Now the font is blue. Cool. So the next thing is we want to start putting a border around these. Let me zoom in here. You can see that I have got a nice round border. And beforehand, we just did a ugly old square border on our other videos. So what we need to do is come to the nav menu items. Let's go ahead and start with the border. And this will be a two-step process. Border, 1 pixel, solid, black. Control S to save. We'll come here, refresh. Well, now we can see we've got these borders, right? And don't freak out because it still looks ugly, but I'm doing this step by step to show you what's going to happen. So we can see that the borders are all square. So if we come back to our nav menu items class, let's go ahead and type in border radius. And what this will do, and this is one time where I do mix up pixels and rem, is I want to say border radius of 8 pixels. And what that's going to do, it's going to make these 90 degrees, it's going to round those corners. And there we go. Now this is a very popular and trendy style, right? You know, back in the day from 1995 and 97, everything was square. But now in this kinder and gentler web era, everything's all rounded, so you don't hurt yourself when you click on a sharp edge. But anyhow, I digress. So we've got the border radius. Now we've got this problem, right? Because these are inline elements, well, they're bumping up into each other when they stack, right? When they flow. And we want to get rid of that. So we need to apply a margin to this. And also this top one, the top border is bumping up against the top of the div. So we want to put a margin on both sides, okay? So let's come in here. And what I like to do is you can come in here and say margin top. And let's do 0.5 rem. And we'll come in here and we'll do margin bottom. And let's do 0.5 rem. Control S to save, come here, refresh. Well, it didn't work. Well, what's going on here? Well, the thing is, these are still inline. These aren't inline, so we need to change these to an inline block so we can have control over the margins. So I copied the inline block from up here, pasted it, clean that up, Control S to save, come to our web page, refresh, and there we go. We're starting to make progress. It's still a little bit of ways, right? So we've got these borders. Well, as you'll notice, we've got this padding on the inside. It's not all bunched up, right? It's not bunched up on the left and the right. So we need to come into our nav menu items and say, hey, I want padding. I want there to be padding in the nav menu items, okay? So let's come in here and give padding, and I want to go with 0.4 rem. Control S to save, come back here, refresh. Hey, that's starting to look a lot better, okay? But we've got these hard lines. But our app that I made earlier has got these nice soft box shadow lines. And so let's go find some box shadows, shall we? And one of the places that I found, I'll put a link below, is I'll come in here, I'll paste this website, and they've got this really cool website. I'm not associated with this website at all, but they've got lots of cool box shadows. So you need to come in here and find whatever you like, and they made it really super easy. So you just come in here and click on it, and it said copied. Okay, so let's come in here to our nav menu items, and we'll just go ahead and Control V to paste, and Control S to save, and let's see what happens. Boom! Well, we've got a nice shadow on the background. Well, that's cool, but I don't like that. It's not looking clean. So what we need to do is remove that border that we put in here earlier for the layout purposes. See, that's the cool thing is you can always come in here and do a border to help you lay out and make sure things line up. And then you can come back later and just delete it or comment it out and hit Control S to save. Come back to our page and refresh. So now we're starting to look pretty much like we have here. Now if you notice, I've got a little bit of a larger gap or margin on each side because we haven't told these nav items to have a margin. So let's go ahead and do that. And let's go ahead and do margin left and a margin right. And for my design, I did 0.6 rem. Okay. Go ahead and copy that, paste that, Control S to save, come back to our page and hit refresh. And now we've got margins and gaps, and it's looking like our page, right? That's really cool. Now one thing I want to show you really quick is you can do margin top, bottom, left, and right, and you can be really granular and have fine control with your margins. But if you want to be lazy and you just want to say margin, you want to do all margins the same, you can just come in here and do margin 0.7 rem just to make it larger. And we'll go ahead and comment these out, Control S to save, and then refresh. Well, now everything is 0.7. And let's do 1 rem, Control S, come here, refresh. Now everything's bigger. So if you want to do it that way, you can, but I'm going to stick with what I had before. Okay, I hit Control Z to undo all that, and then Control S to save. Come back here and hit refresh. All right, so now we want to start working on our content down here, right? Hey, we still have this ugly looking stuff here. So let's start working on that. Okay, so let's start working on the root wrapper. And I want to go ahead and start setting up for the tutorials to come that are going to render the dynamic content. And for right now, let's go ahead and create another div. So this is going to be a child div of the parent of root wrapper. And this div, I'm going to assign it, for now, an ID of root. And we'll go into this later, but just roll with me right now. And I want to do an H1. We haven't talked about an H1, but an H1 is a header tag. And basically it makes a title. And we'll just say test title. Okay, hit Control S. And then we'll come down here and we'll do a P. And we'll just go ahead and get started with that. And we'll just say some test content. Control S to save. And let's see what we have. Refresh. Okay, so we have some stuff going on here. And it's starting to look similar to that. But we have a ways to go. So now we need to start getting rid of these guidelines, these border guidelines that we had. So we need to come into our code and we can go ahead and get rid of the test up here, get rid of that, and we come down here and get rid of that test. And that should clean some things up. Okay, and we still have our red border, so we got to go ahead and get rid of that. And come to our code, come up here to test parent, and that's going to get rid of our red border. Control S to save. I'm going to go ahead and clean that up. Control S to save. Come here, refresh. So now we've gotten rid of that border. We want to go ahead and get that nice cool looking shadow border going on, right? So we want to apply that. Let's go ahead and find our root wrapper. And let's go ahead and paste a box shadow styling from above, right? And let's see what happens. Control S to save. We'll hit refresh. And we've got something similar going on, right? And it's a little, you can see here the gap is a little tight, but we'll fix that later. And so we've got the square borders. So we need to go ahead and apply our border radius like we had before. Copy that. Come down here, paste it, Control S to save. Come to our page, refresh. And now you can see here we've got our rounded border. So like our demo page, we need to put a gap. We need to put a margin top. So we'll come in here to our root wrapper and we'll say margin top, and let's do 2 rem. Control S to save, and if everything works right, we should see a gap occur right here. Refresh, and there we go, we've got a gap. And I'm actually going to change that gap down to 1 rem. Control S to save, come back, refresh. That's looking better. Good enough. So we're getting close, but as you can see, our test title is bumped up against the side, whereas here we have a padding, right? So we don't want that to happen. Okay, and to fix that, we want to target the div that has the ID of root, and we want to say, hey, root div, we want you to apply padding to your div, right? So coming down here below the root wrapper, we'll go ahead and hit pound root and curly braces, and we want to go ahead and let's do some paddings. And I want to have granular control, so I'm going to do padding left and padding right, and I'm going to say 0.75 rem. Copy. Come in here and hit paste. Hit Control S to save, and let's see what happens. Well, now we have padding on the left. Now I want to come to another website called Lorem Ipsum generator. And the one, you'll see this a lot of times, you'll see this thing called Lorem Ipsum. And this is just to put dummy content into your page. So instead of typing something that you wrote out, you can come in here and just put dummy content into your website just for show. This way people won't judge you on your spelling, your grammar, or anything like that. So I copied that from the page, and I'll go ahead and paste it here and select it all to tab. And then let's go ahead and format the code a little bit. Format the code, make it nice and pretty. Control S to save it. And save that for good measure. And then come here, refresh. Hey, that's looking good. Now there's a reason why I explicitly said left 0.75 and right 0.75, because sometimes it can get a little funky and it won't. I like to have nice even margins on the left and the right, and sometimes if you start having to fool around with word wrap and word break and stuff, it won't work. But I have found if you explicitly say padding 0.75 on both sides, it will always behave. So let's go ahead and comment that out to see what happens. Hit refresh, and as you can see here, like I was talking about, this whole thing runs it to the side and it touches the edge, and I don't like that. I like having control over my elements and my divs. So let's go ahead and Control Z to get that back. And by doing this, by say, hey, make the 0.75 on both left and right, it's going to force the div to behave. So we're back the way we like it. So to do some more content to make it larger, one thing I want to do is copy this, and I want to paste it, right? Hit Control S. And well, let's see what happens. We have a space here, so shouldn't that space carry over to the page? Well, nope, it doesn't. You can see right here, the Lorem Ipsum, the yada yada, that's that content, right? And it ends with laborum. We'll come here, ends with laborum. And then it starts again. But, hey, we didn't put a space. Well, the thing is, when this thing renders, it's not going to recognize this space. So you have to come in here and you have to do a line break, which is BR, hit tab, and hit S. Well, let's see what happens then. Well, it put a line break. Well, that's good. Now we can see the paragraphs are separate. But normally when we read, a lot of times we have another space in there. So this BR is a line break, and that's just going to break the line that's being rendered out. And it's not going to put an additional space. So what you want to do is you want to have 2 breaks. And this is going to create what we really had expected before, right? So now we have the space that we're accustomed to. So coming back here, let's go ahead and hit copy. Let's go ahead and copy all of the content as well as the line breaks. And then let's hit paste. Tab that over. Hit paste again. Tab that over. Control S. Come to our page and refresh. Well, hey, there we go. We've got, it's starting to look pretty good, but we're not quite finished yet. Let's scroll all the way down to the bottom. And you can see here that our element, you can see here that our page has a gap on the bottom. And this page doesn't. So we need to say, hey, we want you to have a margin on the bottom. And we need to apply that to the root wrapper class. So like we did a margin at the top, well, we can come in here and say margin bottom. Let's go ahead and do how about we do 30 pixels just to mix it up a little bit. Okay, hit Control S to save. Come here, refresh our page, and now we have our bottom. And that just makes, to me, it just makes it look nicer instead of just being jumbled up on the edge of the screen. So, yeah, it's looking pretty awesome. So this tutorial is getting very, very long. And we've done a lot. You know, we've gone through here and we've learned how to do a really basic layout with our parent-child. We've learned about anchor tags being inline elements and how to style them. And then we've got our root wrapper playing as a parent and a child. And then really quickly doing the parent-child overview. The container is the big parent. It's the parent of everything here, right? Everything we see here. And then this is the child of the container. But hey, the nav menu is acting as the parent of all these anchor tags, which are the children. And then same thing here, we've got the root wrapper, which is again a child of the container, but it's acting as the parent of the root. And now the root is acting as the parent of all the children here, the H1 and the P tags, the P elements. So we've reinforced more about the parent-child relationship, and we've got a lot of good practice about styling here. And these are really good styling techniques that are going to be helpful for your development. All right. So this tutorial's gotten pretty lengthy. My voice is getting hoarse, so I'm going to go ahead and start winding it down, stop recording, get some more coffee, relax, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.